Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga has returned as Ed and Lorraine Warren, the paranormal investigators who's been using their gifts and their talents, helping families throughout all these years investigate any strange and paranormal activity that they may be having, within their household. This case was a little bit different. This one involves their daughter Judy, who was a stillborn at birth. The demon has been basically haunting her for most of her childhood years. Ed and Lorraine Warren has practically retired from demon hunting. They're no longer in the business of hunting ghosts. They're now just using their skills to teach the younger generation. But eventually they have to come out of retirement to help the Smurl family, a family of 8 individuals who have come into contact with a mirror that is being possessed by a demon who has used the mirror as a conduit to torment this family. Out of all the Conjuring movies I've seen, I would say if this one isn't as good as the first, it's definitely up there. I would say that this Conjuring had a lot to offer. This is definitely somewhere up there with the first Conjuring. It had a lot. It had jump scares, it had blood, it had demonic possession. It's like Evil Dead with a little bit of Exorcist. I love how this movie starts off. It introduces you to a young Ed and Lorraine Warren as they take on their first paranormal investigation. Throughout the years of going on all these cases, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're tired. Ed suffered a heart attack. His doctor is recommending him to take it easy on the ghost hunting for a while. And I feel like that gave the movie a bit more to work with. There's a real concern about Ed's health. If he does another case, he can possibly suffer a stroke. During the first half of this movie, it feels a bit lighter. The daughter Judy, she's going through things. She keeps seeing things, but Lorraine is basically coaching her through it and teaching her how to handle those situations. She has this thing that her mother teaches her. It's like a now you lay me down to sleep type of deal. And then when she says it, she no longer sees anything and the ghosts are no longer there. Because Lorraine has had this gift her entire life, so she worries about passing it on to her daughter like it's hereditary. She doesn't want her to go through the same thing she does, so she tries to find ways to help her deal and cope with these situations. The first half of this movie gets you to care about the family a lot that's being tormented by this demon, and I feel like Conjuring has always been able to really get you to care about the family before things start to happen. It's a family of 8 people and they're all experiencing what's going on in the house and, they need some help, but Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're no longer taking cases until something happens which kind of forces Ed and Lorraine to now take their case. And I like the way the movie did that. There's a legitimate reason as to why Ed and Lorraine Warren has to now go and dive into this case that they really didn't want to do in the first place, but they have no choice and they have to help the family out because it involves their daughter. This movie plays around with shadows and sounds and tones a lot. Like you can hear like shrieks and screeches and cracks in the floor. There's all type of noises that you don't expect in certain areas of the movie, and it happens and you're just like, oh, okay, there's a build up with these noises, and then you see something, things move by themselves, and it's just so many things that the movie plays around with to get you to be deceived by what's actually going on screen. Like they play around with the usual formula. You'll hear like a kid's voice and then you take a look and then there's no one there, or you'll see something move and then you look back, there's nothing there, you look again, something's there. But like I said, this movie has a little bit of everything, possession, blood. It gives you something from each of the Conjurings and adds it to this. And then they kind of give you a few things that kind of are new, but still with the same formula that they're used to playing with. I was actually surprised at how things just ramped up in this movie. I mean, as soon as the family comes into contact with this cursed object, things just start happening nonstop, and it kind of doesn't even really give you a break to catch your breath. It's like the moment you see something happen and you're like, okay, it's over, and then a couple minutes later, things start happening again. And those are the type of horror movies I enjoy the most. The type of horror movies that really don't give you a chance to catch your breath. It just keeps throwing things at you to make you, wonder what's about to happen, and then you think something is about to happen, and then it doesn't, but then it does. And it just completely catches you off guard. I love my scares unexpected, and this movie gives you a lot of that. But it also gives you those scares that you could see a mile away, but you're still gonna be like, I would not want to be in that family situation. I feel like this Conjuring did a lot of things really well compared to like the last iteration that it had. I feel like this one really did the most it could to get the audience to feel the fear of the family that was dealing with the situation. It really pulls you in. I love how the director zoomed in on certain scenes. You got close up of certain things that you're just right in its face and you're just like, oh my God, it was just crazy to look at. And I saw this movie in IMAX, which I would recommend everyone to see it in IMAX because it gives you a visual forefront of everything that's happening on screen. And there's a lot going on in this movie and you don't want to miss anything. You got some old scenes that's happening that I feel like fans would recognize from like Annabelle or things like Insidious, but you also got new things happening as well that I feel like everyone will enjoy and actually appreciate the director for throwing these in there. If you like horror movies, I feel like this movie is definitely the one to check out. This movie has so much going on. You know, like I said, things move on their own. There's one scene in particular where you have a toy and it's just moving and then it stops and then it turns and then you're like, oh my god, what is gonna happen now? And it's just so much. But I loved it. I love everything about this movie and I can't wait for you guys to see it. I feel like you guys definitely should go check this out. But I really loved a lot about this movie. I feel like they did a lot right in this movie. You know, this is the last Conjuring movie that they're making and I feel like they really showed a lot of respect to Ed and Lorraine Warren and they really went out with great detail. I would recommend anyone to see this movie. You know, if I had to give this movie a score, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I feel like I said, this movie had a lot to offer. It had a lot of scares. It had a lot of jump scares. It had a lot of, you know, things that you're not expecting. You know, it's just so much going on in this one. The inclusion of Judy, the daughter of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and her backstory and everything that's going on with her actually made the movie feel even more refreshing and definitely different from a lot of the other Conjuring movies. But guys, if you see The Conjuring Last Rites, let me know what you feel about it. Leave your comments below and please like and subscribe to this video as it'll help the channel out. And remember everyone, it ain't cinema if it ain't absolute cinema. Once again, I'm out.